Hi, I'm Keenan Griffey with Cardinal Television. As we mark 25 years of the Buffalo Bills training camp at St. John Fisher University, we're joined by two people who have very unique perspectives on the evolution of camp. Dr. Gerard Rooney is Fisher's 7th president, and Mary Piehler is a graduate of the class of 1979 and a member of the Fisher's Board of Trustees. Thank you both for joining us and celebrating this milestone with us.
Thank you for having us.
Be with you.
Thanks so much. So, Dr. Rooney, first question to you. Just looking at this historic 25th year, what goes through your mind when you think about this milestone?
I think back to when the actual announcement was made of the training camp coming to Fisher and what a milestone it was at the time. But looking back over the 25 years of the camp, really to see the growth and development of the campus infrastructure, part of which supports the Bills, the growth of the campus itself in so many different ways in that period of time. And of course, the success of the Buffalo Bills franchise and their continuing commitment to our campus community, the Rochester community, by hosting the camp here. So really have a lot of thoughts about both the beginnings, which were quite humble compared to where the camp is today. The university has grown up over that period of time as well. So it's really very fond memories of a period of positive change for St. John Fisher and for the Buffalo Bills.
That's wonderful. So, Mary, you're an alumna of the university, and you joined the Board of Trustees pretty close to when the Bills first arrived at Fisher. Tell us what this milestone means to you.
You know, I think it's been such a privilege for Fisher to have the Bills here, and I think that the vision of what the camp would be, we've just far exceeded it through the years. I think we had no idea of the value of the partnership between an educational institution, an NFL team, the community, the students, the alumni. I just don't think all of that was really part of the picture. And to think that Hard Knocks filmed here last year and we became a national known university was really just a phenomenal experience. So it's been great, but it's been a privilege to be part of this for all of these years.
Wonderful. So my next question, I would love to get both of your perspectives on it. So we've interviewed several members of our campus community who have been here since the first training camp, and some of whom even worked at the camp those first 2 years. And in those conversations, we've heard a lot of great memories. I'd like to ask both of you if any particular moments from training camp that you're most fond of. Would you like to start, President Rooney?
Sure. One of them might be just a personal memory, Keenan, that in the early days of the camp, one of our sons was so taken by the Bills camp. He was in elementary school at the time that he wanted to come to camp every day of the week that the Bills were here. And of course, in the early days, that was closer to about 5 weeks of time. And so I would bring him with me to work and drop him off at the field, and he would spend the day and come over. We'd have some lunch, and he'd go back for the afternoon practice. Very often in those days, there were 2 practices each day. So we got to spend a lot of time on campus, some of it, together, and just looking at the impact of the experience on a younger person. And as Mary said, the privilege of having that opportunity happening here at Fisher. I think another, great memory is one that's really more a collective experience. It's really the excitement of the fans as they come to our campus each day of the success of year's camp, the enthusiasm for the Bills, the quality of the organization that the Bills is and the experience that they, allow us to host for them, and the fan base and its excitement each year with, what the potential of the season might be. There's really an energy that's so positive and uplifting when you visit the camp while it's here. So I've had the good fortune to be here for the whole time that it's gone on and experience that, each year. So those are 2 memories that, to me, one individual, and one sort of more looking at the collective experience and the impact of the camp.
I have a lot of memories. I think the one that I reflect on the most and think about is in the early days, the board of directors used to have dinner with the players, and there would be 6 seats at the table. So there would be 2 couples, and then 2 random players would just come and join us when they entered. We had it in the gym at Fisher. And the first year we had that, the player that sat next to me was Paul Pozlowski. They call him Paz. He had just signed with the Bills. He was a recent college grad, and he was so excited. And my thought was, he's a regular guy. Like, I was nervous an NFL player was going to sit there, and he was just a regular guy. And then the other seat was empty. And then right before dinner, a gentleman came in and sat down, and I didn't know who it was. And he didn't introduce himself right off the bat, but my husband knew who it was and said, "Hey, you're Marshawn Lynch, right?" And he said, "Yes." And that got him talking. And we really had a great evening of conversation. And the funny part was Paz had just signed for a contract, and Marshawn's contract was much larger. But they're both going to play together. They didn't really know each other that much, so they had a lot of exchange at the dinner. And they asked me if there were any players I wanted to meet. And I said, not really, but I said I know someone that wanted me to meet Trent Edwards, that the guy's son is the quarterback at the high school where Trent played. And they said, "Oh, we'll go get him." So, they went and got him and brought him over, and I told him who the people were. And he's like, "Oh my God, he's at my high school." He said, "I want to sign something. Do you have anything I could sign?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just at dinner." And he's like, "I'll get something." And he went over and he took down a Bills decoration that was there. And he had a, Sharpie. And I told him the kid's name, and he wrote it to the team and said, "I hope you have a great season," and gave it to me. So I framed it and sent it out to the guy that had asked. And I went home that night and we just talked about how regular they were and how when they got in an audience with regular people, they were very comfortable here with us. So, that's just a great memory from the early days. And then I think the other thing is the impact this has had on our students. A few years ago, I spoke at an alumni enrollment event, and students said their first trip to Fisher was the Bills camp. And that was the first time they saw the campus, and now they're enrolling. And now some of those same people are employed at the NFL, at Major League Baseball, at the UFL. They came, some of them took sports management, some of them are in business operations, but they came to the camp because they came to the campus because they saw how beautiful it was, and it became a lifetime conversation with them and their parents, and coming back every year. And I think I don't think we ever thought about that in the beginning of the camp, the impact it would have on the students and the alums.
Right. And I can tell you, being a student myself here, a kid from North Carolina coming all the way up here to Rochester, New York. And when I first got here, I thought to myself, they really love the Buffalo Bills here because its stuff was just everywhere. And I saw the impact it really, as you mentioned, that it had on the students here. So, Dr. Rooney, my next question is for you. One of the best parts about training camp is the opportunities for current students, several of whom get the chance to intern at camp every year. How important is an opportunity like that for college students, and how does this make Fisher stand out?
I think the opportunity is so unique because there are 32 NFL teams. Only a few of them today have training camp on a college or university campus, and we're fortunate enough to be one of those. And so for the students who have the benefit of the internships with a professional sports team, I think it's just an unparalleled opportunity. So it really does differentiate Fisher. Thankfully for us, it doesn't uniquely differentiate the student experience because we have that type of experience available for a lot of students who are interested in different disciplines as well. But for those who are in sport management in particular, I think it's a wonderful way for them to make inroads with a professional organization, to get to know people in the organization, to really understand the work of the organization and that there is an organization behind the team. Most people view, the camp as a team that's on the field, but the number of people who support those players in so many different ways from the organizational leadership on down are such an important and integral part of it. And I think the interns really get an inside glimpse into that. And they've been able to use it, in my experience through the years, really as a credential that helps them to launch their own professional career. And now the ones who were here in the early days of the camp are in a position to help today's students, fulfill their dreams of getting into a professional sports organization. So I think it's a very unique focus that Fisher has on experiential learning. And this is one of the best examples of the benefits of that, having the ability to take what you're learning in the classroom, apply it in real life to an organization that you may one day aspire to work in, and then be able to get a job in that organization. That's really coming full circle through that experience. So I think it really is a uniquely different experience for our students.
And how interesting would it be to intern with a team you grew up with, that you grew up loving?
Mary had mentioned before the academic nature of the partnership with the Bills. And when Dr. Keough went and pitched Fisher as a place for the Bills to move the camp, she very much had in mind the benefit of an academic partnership with the team. We were launching at the time a sports studies major, and there was one young guy who was from Buffalo in particular who came over to Fisher and enrolled, and he was a sports study major. And he volunteered at the camp the first year, and then he came back in the second year and volunteered again. And then he got invited to go and work game days at the stadium. And then he progressed up, and as he graduated, actually took a professional job with the Bills. He, through the years, I visited in Pittsburgh. He was part of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. He worked in the Meadowlands for the stadium ownership group, where both the Jets play and the Giants play, as you know. And he spent his whole career doing really what he started out volunteering in here. So it's really a great demonstration, I think, of the impact on him as an individual, but an experience that represents the experience of far more Fisher students through the years and the impact of the camp in particular. So we're grateful to the Bills for that, because it really has been through the years and continues to be this year. I think there are 8 interns at camp, and they have that same experience that this other person had 25 years ago. So the academic nature of that is, I think, somewhat unique even among the NFL training camps. So we're grateful to the Bills organization for that, and it's a great differentiator for our graduates.
That's wonderful. So we can't talk about the history of Bills camp at Fisher without touching on the impact of Dr. Katherine Keough. Could you talk about her legacy and how this milestone year really reflects her impact?
I think she would be phenomenally proud if she were here today. A true visionary. I was at the board meeting when she mentioned the possibility of us hosting the Buffalo Bills, and I think we took a slight break right after that because we weren't sure if she was serious or not. But she had a vision of what this camp would be. And part of her vision was that corporations would host events here at the camp. And I hosted many of them where I worked, and Katherine showed up at every one of them and talked to the corporate people. I mean, she used it as an avenue to meet people along the way. And that still goes on today. There's still a lot of corporate events that take place, and people that really look forward to coming back, even if they're from out of town, to go to the camp. So I think her vision, I think she'd be very proud that the following 2 presidents have held her tradition and continued to work with the Bills. And she would be thrilled at the students that have had opportunities that have come out of this, whether it's in sports management or accounting or film, wherever. I think that she would just be thrilled with the whole thing.
Yeah, I think Dr. Keough saw Fisher's potential in a much different way than most people who had come before her and most people who were on campus at the time. So this idea of hosting an NFL training camp was just so far outside of the ordinary that there was a question about, is it an appropriate thing for a campus to do? How would we do it? Would the Bills want to come to Fisher? And she was very quick at developing thoughts that she had, and had really, I think, a wonderful intuition about things. And the camp, she knew, would be far greater an experience for Fisher if we were able to host it here than I think she could have ever really imagined. But she had an intuition about what its impact might be. And so she aggressively pursued the opportunity, it was realized, and I think it really has been something that would far exceed even her own initial vision for it. It's really been such a wonderful opportunity for Fisher through the years, and in so many ways has put the institution on the map as a place where a professional sports team chose to host their training camp, and as a place where I might want to come to study. And I was more aware of Fisher because of the notoriety of the Bills, the opportunity of an NFL association, and certainly the coverage that the camp has gotten, which through the years has just been exponential in its increase. So her legacy, I think, really is not only the camp, but it's the array of impacts that the camp has had that have really changed the institution in such positive ways over time.
And she understood the value of the community being a part of this. In the early years, there used to be a parade from downtown Pittsburgh to Fisher with the Bills in it, celebrating their arrival.
Yeah.
And the community immediately embraced that. They did it, I think, for a couple of years. And she wasn't afraid to go out and get corporate sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
That was very important to her, that the community engage in this, that the camp was no charge to families. Just the shuttle has a charge to get here, but, it was free entertainment. And she believed that that really was great promotion for us. And I think she was right.
So in considering the past 2 decades and the impact on Bills Camp has had on our community, what do those 2 decades serving as host to the Bills and Bills Mafia say about Fisher as an icon in the greater Rochester community? Would you like to start, Dr. Rooney?
Sure. I think, Fisher was founded to serve the greater Rochester region. I think we've proudly done that in a continuing way through the years. And we've done that through an association with the community. We do things together with the community supports us, we support the community in turn. Many of our graduates stay in the community. And I think what the camp overall has helped us to do is to grow Fisher's community much broader beyond the Rochester region, but importantly, remaining focused in the Rochester community too. So the camp, when the Bills came to Rochester, they were looking to expand their season ticket base. A lot of people from Rochester are Bills fans, and it helped them to grow their market. And the camp's association with us helped us to grow our market in turn. So I think there's been a mutual benefit to the organizations. We've helped the Bills to achieve what they have gone on to in a small way, but I think in an important way. And they have certainly helped us in a consequential way that's made us a better institution than we were before they came. And so that partnership continues to have impact on us in important ways as we mature further as an institution and in the continuing relationship that we have with them. So we're grateful for the past 25 years. It went by very quickly, as time does, and we look forward to the next period of time that they'll be with us, certainly in the continuing impact on each of our organizations.
It's incredible. What about you, Mary?
I agree with all of that, and I think that the partnerships go beyond Rochester, and I think we've had, corporate events from companies that are headquartered in Florida and all different cities. So that's been an advantage not only to Fisher, but to the community that came and saw who sponsored us here, and the students that came and then got internships in some of those companies. So the partnership became much broader. Fisher was always a community-related school, but I think this really just put us on the map with a lot of other companies.
Because again, being a student from North Carolina, I've really seen the impact that the Buffalo Bills have had on the people here. So yeah, it would be incredible to see that for many years to come. So. Yeah. But thank you both, Dr. Rooney and Mary, for coming on.
Thank you.
It's so nice to talk with you both today.
Thanks.
And thank you for taking the time. Check out more of our coverage celebrating 25 years of Buffalo Bills training camp at St. John Fisher University on Fisher's YouTube page. For Cardinal Television, I'm Keenan Griffey, signing off. Thank you.